Okay, let's continue our lecture here, understanding that this is the basic accounting journal entry for depreciation. We take the expense here as a debit. This is a regular expense account. It goes up with a debit. Accumulated depreciation, as we said, is a contra asset account that goes up with a credit, although it appears in the assets section of the balance sheet and it is linked to a specific asset account like trucks or building or factory or computers, whatever it might be. Okay, moving on, we're going to get into the meat of the chapter here, which is three main methods of calculating depreciation. Notice the abbreviation here, depreciation is DEPN. Okay, first and most commonly used one is straight line depreciation. It's easiest and it's pretty straightforward. You take the original cost of the asset and all the costs involved in putting it into service, minus what's called a salvage value, or what some books call a residual value. So you take this numerator, take the cost minus its final value for it to dispose of it at the end and get some money out of it, divide by its useful life, usually in terms of years, and that's going to be your annual depreciation expense in dollars. Okay, so here's an example, right? Monthly depreciation cost of a truck that costs 28 grand, it's going to be used for 10 years, then it's sold for 4 grand. Well, original cost is 28 grand, salvage, no, that's what this 4,000 is, that's 28 minus 4. Your numerator is going to be 24 when you subtract them. The bottom of the fraction is going to be 10 years. What's 24 divided by 10? Pretty straightforward. You're going to get 2,400 a year or $200 a month. Divide 2,400 by 12, and that's where you get the 200. Okay, I hope that's very straightforward. Straight line is meant to be that way. And we're going to start with a lot of examples just like this. Very, very simple, very, very straightforward, we hope, and you'll get some practice with these. Okay, a different type of depreciation would be the units of production method. This type of depreciation is good for assets that depend on their usage, not simply on time. In other words, a photocopier, you might use it a whole lot if you're busy. If you're at a school like Sierra College, the photocopier is probably not used much in the summer. Okay, factory equipment. If it is a real busy time for your business, your factory is running 24/7, but maybe there's been a slowdown and maybe factory equipment is not running at all between the holidays. A lot of places are doing what they call dark days these days, shutting down offices, saying, let's turn off everything, lights, copiers, utilities, air conditioning, and let's make everybody go home just to save some money on utility costs. Well, if your factory equipment is used sporadically, then units of production method might be a good way to use it. Vehicles based on mileage, construction equipment. If you rent a backhoe, it's typically rented by the hour, okay, not by the day, or I suppose you could rent it by the day, but it's not usually rented by the mile or by how many times you lift the dirt up. It's rented by the hour in many cases. Okay, 2 steps to find this depreciation expense here. Okay, first of all, find depreciation per unit. Second of all, you are going to, actually, this is still the first step, take the original cost minus the salvage value, just like straight line depreciation. But this time, instead of dividing by years that you expect the asset to be in use, you divide by the total units of production that the asset is expected to provide. In other words, a photocopier might be expected to make 300,000 copies over its life. A vehicle, you might expect 200,000 miles or 100,000 miles, depending on what it is and what it's used for. And so you're going to divide the total dollars minus salvage value by the total units, total miles, total copies, total hours you might want to use it. Once you have this dollars per unit, you would then multiply those dollars per unit, depreciation per unit here, times the units you used it or produced that period. In other words, if my copier came out to be 4 cents a copy and we made 10,000 copies, 4% of that would be, I think, $400, what all that would be there. If my math is right. Okay, 10,000 divided by 0.04, I think so. Yeah, I think it's 400. Okay, so that's how that works. Once again, an example will help us. Okay, find the depreciation cost of a truck that cost 28,000, then it's sold for 4,000. Oh, it's the same truck as last time. Okay, and it's been used for 150,000 miles. Okay, it's going to be used is what that should say. The truck has driven 1,400 miles this month. Okay, so first of all, step 1, 28 minus 4, just like straight line. But now for units of production, instead of dividing by 10 years, we're going to divide by 150,000 miles. This comes out to be 16 cents a mile. And I would not round this number. I would keep any other digits in your calculator here for this. If it said 0.16444 or 0.16666, leave those in your calculator. Okay, now I take the 0.16 per mile, 16 cents a mile, multiply by the number of miles I used it this month. This times this gives me 224 per month. And so if we use it more next month, the depreciation cost goes up. If you don't use it at all, depreciation cost is 0. So it's very flexible, this method, and it makes sense in a lot of cases, although it's not quite as common as straight line.